Let's begin by telling you that the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited NNPCL has increased the price of premium motor spirits commonly known as Petrol to 1,025 naira per litre in Lagos and surrounding areas, up from 980 naira per litre. In the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, petrol prices also rose from 1,030 naira to 1,060 naira per litre, according to observations at multiple NNPCL stations on Tuesday. This price adjustment, the third since September, is part of the government's ongoing deregulation policy, which allows fuel prices to respond to market demand and supply conditions. Meanwhile, the Dangote Petroleum Refinery has raised concerns over the continued importation of petrol, despite its production capacity at the new $20 billion facility in Lekki. Oil marketers are predicting further price increases in the near future as the energy sector adjusts to these evolving dynamics. Well, to further discuss this, I'm being joined by President Association of Small Business Owners of Nigeria, Lagos Chapter, Dr. Femi Egbesola. Thank you so much, Dr. Femi, for taking time out to speak to us this morning. What are some of the effects of the recent fuel price increase on small businesses in Nigeria, particularly those in the transportation and logistics sector?
Well, the impact has been very massive and negative on us. And the incessant increase in the hike of fuel price has made it very, very difficult for us to survive in business. Formerly, our intention is to grow and scale, but I must tell you now that we are at the survival stage. Survival stage in the sense that we find it difficult to make profits as the transporters. Those who are transporters under our pole, we find it very difficult to make profit this time because the increase in price of fuel cannot be passed in totality to the masses, and that eats a lot into our profit. At the same time, too, for us in business who does logistics, who do supplies, it has disrupted our supply chain because we cannot supply as we used to do before because of the very high cost of supply now. And all other logistic companies that engage with us, we have to begin to disengage with some of them because we can no longer cope. Like I did mention, it is about survival now and not about growth.
Well, talking about survival, let's also look at a very critical aspect. The Dangote Petroleum Refinery has expressed concerns about the continued importation of petrol despite its production capacity. Yesterday, we did see Dangote himself speak. Do you think the government should prioritize local production and refined products to reduce reliance on imports?
Yes, that should be our priority now. Whatever will bring that down the cost of fuel should be the priority of everybody, particularly government. For us to be able to thrive in the economy, the MSME sector must be enabled. One way to enable it is to make sure that cost of doing business comes down. So if we can rely on local refineries, now that we have one or a couple of number of local refineries and we're able to get it at a cheaper rate, I think it's better for us. It will also help us to stabilize our effects instead of taking foreign exchange to go and buy imported fuel elsewhere. At the same time, too, we believe that the savings from that earnings will be used by government to also improve ease of doing business. As much as fuel price is going up, we also believe that if government is actually coming up with the right intervention in the MSME ecosystem, we will be able to survive better because we'll have some form of cushioning effects that can mitigate against the negative impact of this continuous hike in fuel price.
All right, let's look at the government's deregulation policy, which is aimed to allow fuel prices to respond to market demand and supply conditions. Now, do you actually think this policy will eventually benefit small businesses in the long run, or will it lead to more challenges like what we're seeing now?
Well, that is the best practice in most economies of the world. But we should understand that Nigerian economy is a bit different. We are faced with avalanche of issues at the moment. One of it is inflation and all of that. The poverty rate in the country is so high, and a lot of things are playing out together at the same time. So as much as we want to play with the dynamics of the international market price, we should also understand that we must make sure that the the welfare of the citizens are well taken care of, such that we cater for intervention programs that can help them survive even in the midst of high price. Some of the intervention programs we expect government to do now is to have liberalized the CNG gas, such that it is easier for everybody to be able to access it, install it, and make use of it, and get cheaper form of energy to run their businesses, to run their houses. We also expect government to have come out with the intervention fund they promised over time. This was announced last year. Until now, we have not been able to see quite a number of this intervention fund playing out, particularly in the MSME sector. Yes, it was agreed that it was again mentioned that it will be relaunched this week, but we believe this should have come on board ever before coming up with continuous fuel hike that we used to have from time to time. We also expect government to be engaging the stakeholders more than they are doing, engaging stakeholders, particularly in the business sector, to tell them the minds of government, the workings of government, what government has in stock to be able to support them so that they can survive this very harsh time. It is indeed very, very harsh, and quite a lot of businesses are closing down by the day. According to statistics, we have about 20% of businesses that has gone down in the last 2 years. That is a very sorry case.
Well, quite a sad situation that we find ourselves now. But small businesses often operate on thin profit margins, very thin. How can they absorb the increased fuel costs without passing them on to consumers? And what support can the government offer to mitigate the impact? I mean, just this morning, in a conversation I was having with my colleagues, we had noticed that some of these small businesses are pushing the VAT, especially to customers. And this seems to be very, very problematic, especially when it comes to payment. What's your take on this?
Over time, our profit margin has become highly eroded, very eroded, such that we find it very difficult now to absorb any other shock or hike in price of fuel or other costs of doing business. And for that reason, we have no choice now than to pass it to the end consumer, which is a sorry case also. But we just do not have any choice if we must survive. But we are also on our own trying to look at how we can begin to innovate and be more creative with the way we do our business so that we can have more profit and be able to share part of this hike with the consumers. At the same time, too, we keep advocating that government should do more, be more intentional in supporting the MSME ecospace by bringing out a lot of solutions, a lot of support programs, a lot of intervention programs that can assist the MSMEs to be able to cope at this time. This sector is actually ailing, and it is the engine of growth of the economy. So government must now come down to begin to see how they can support us. This support can only be done if they have a good understanding of that sector, and that can also be achievable if they have a very strong handshake with stakeholders in the MSME sector. We have also decided to also some way to share some of our weights in the sense of reducing production line, reducing staff strength, reducing other logistics and metrics that we use for our businesses so that we can reduce costs, so that all of these costs will not be passed to the consumers. But at this point, we're at the break point. We can no longer absorb some of this hike again, and it has to go to the customers. And this has also result in very low sales for us, because even the consumers too already have their purchasing power eroded. So it's about very low sales, and that is already threatening the life of our businesses and our own livelihood. And we pray that government come to see the need to intervene immediately and pay more than the usual attention on the MSME sector.
I want to say thank you so much, Dr. Femi Egbesola, for speaking to us, Association President, Association of Small Business Owners of Nigeria. Thank you for taking time to speak with us here on News Now.
Thank you very much for having me.
Great.